Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. A very warm welcome to all of you on day 7 of Srila Prabhupada Lila, planting the seed. We saw yesterday how Srila Prabhupada has moved from Bauri, and by Krishna's grace he has found a new place for opening the first temple of Hare Krishna movement in the United States of America. Srila Prabhupada has got a couple of followers. Some of them have started taking sincere interest, others are just passing by, and some are coming simply for food. But nevertheless, he has got a dozen of followers who come to him every other day. And then we saw how Srila Prabhupada engaged them in regular Krishna conscious program. Prabhupada starts class with half an hour of kirtan, and then he lectures. And while lecturing, a very strange thing happens. And the strange thing is, a madman who is drunk, he suddenly enters the class. And now nobody knows what to do, how to react. They are looking towards Swami, and the Swami is also looking at them. So what does it boil down to? Let us try to understand today. He is still stressing the same point. Whatever you do in Krishna consciousness, however little it may be, is eternally good for you. Yet now, more than uptown or in the Bauri, he is calling his hearers to take to Krishna consciousness fully and become devotees. He assures them. So it doesn't matter what a person was doing before, what sinful activities. A person may not be perfect at first, but if he is engaged in service, then he will be purified. So Prabhupada wanted to give this very important point, which is very important for all of us. It does not matter what is our background, we should not consider at all. Everybody is qualified to follow Krishna consciousness. Yes, it is a fact. To follow any other process of the yoga system, a person needs to have many prerequisites, qualifications. Shucha udeshe pratisthapya sthiram asanam atmanaha, as we saw in the Bhagavad Gita, how so many conditions, yamas and niyamas, do's and don'ts are mentioned. First of all, leave your house, follow complete celibacy. And you have to sit in a firm place, and the asana should be there, which should not be too high, should not be too low. And kushagra should be there, deer skin should be there. So many rules and regulations he has to follow. So many asanas, kind pranayams, and complete stoppage of all the activities of senses. And similarly, all the other yoga processes, it's very difficult. But in this process of bhakti yoga, nothing is required because the process is so powerful. A prospective candidate is brought in direct contact with Krishna, and Krishna is most powerful. Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. Krishna is the ultimate purifier, greatest purifier, as Arjuna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. Anybody who comes in contact with Krishna immediately becomes purified. But what is required is engagement in service. This is how we contact Krishna. So Prabhupada was telling, does not matter what has been qualification or your disqualification before. Simply engage yourself in service of Krishna. And just to explain this point, Krishna makes a dynamic arrangement. Suddenly a Bauri derelict enters, whistling and drunkenly shouting. The audience remains seated, not knowing what to make of it. Drunk says, "How are ya? I'll be right back. I brought another thing. Bhaktivedanta Swami says, don't disturb, sit down. We are talking seriously. Drunk. I'll put it up there. In a church. All right. I'll be right back. He's speaking something crazily. The man is white-haired with a short grizzly beard and frosy clothing. His odor reeks through the temple, but then he suddenly careens out the door and is gone. Bhaktivedanta Swami chuckles softly and returns immediately to his lecture. He continues to explain. But after 5 minutes, the old derelict returns, announcing his entrance. How are ya? He is carrying something. He maneuvers his way through the group straight to the back of the temple, where the Swami is sitting. He opens the toilet room door, puts 2 rolls of bathroom tissue inside, closes the door, and then turns to the sink, sits some paper towels on top of it, and puts 2 more rolls of bathroom tissue and some more paper towels under the sink. He then stands and turns around toward the Swami and the audience. The Swami is looking at him and asks, "What is this?" The bum is silent now. He has done his work. The Swami begins to laugh, thanking his visitor, who is now moving toward the door. Thank you very much. The bum exits. Just see, Bhaktivedanta Swami now addresses his congregation. It is a natural tendency to give some service. Just see, he is not in order, but he thought that here is something. Let me give some service. Just see how automatically it comes. This is natural. The young men in the audience look at one another. This is really far out. This is something extraordinary they are telling. First of all, this Swami who is looking like Buddha with big earlobes and a very unique dress, shirtless, and a sannyas chadar in front and in saffron, and then he comes and he's talking of some very high philosophy, and then now he's talking about a madman, how he has advanced in spiritual life even in half-conscious state. So this was something extraordinary for all of them. After almost an hour, the dog still barks and the kids still squeal. It was a noisy place, as we discussed. The Swami answers some questions and then starts another kirtan. So Prabhupada was always taking questions toward the end of the class. So it is not like any modern speakers who want to create engagement with the crowd, interact as much as possible, because anyway that subject matter may not be very interesting. They want to pull the attention, but Krishna consciousness doesn't work that way. So Prabhupada told Krishna consciousness is realized by hearing with rapt attention. This is the secret of seeing Krishna in every page of Bhagavatam. One has to simply hear with rapt attention. This is very important. So thus Prabhupada would tell his disciples, does not matter in which language Bhagavatam is being spoken, Krishna Katha is happening, simply lend your rapt attention. So don't try to ask in between, try to hear with attention, and towards the end, then you can ask some questions. But to have this rapt attention, it is not easy. A person has to be very, very regulated in the activities. That is how Prabhupada introduced the 4 regulative principles, an entire day schedule, so that all our activities could be very regulated. This regulation is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita also. Yukta hara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnava bodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkhaha. Sometimes we become very enthusiastic. Yes, I have found the process. This chanting is such wonderful process. Let me try to do it very nicely. And these books are so nice. People have made their life successful always since the beginning of creation by hearing this knowledge. Brahma heard this knowledge. Narad Muni heard this knowledge. All other great sages, they heard this knowledge. They chanted the same names of Krishna. We are so fortunate. Let us follow this and we will also get success. But then we see success is not coming. And maybe we are not growing in our realization because this very important fact is missing, and that is called regulation. And that is why Krishna mentions Yukta hara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu. A person has to be regulated in eating. If somebody is eating too much, spiritual advancement is difficult. And if somebody is eating too less, then also it is difficult. Yukt, vihar, the physical enjoyment, sexual enjoyment, that is called vihar, and recreation is also called vihar. That also should be regulated, neither too much nor too less. Yukta cheshtasya karmasu. Cheshta means endeavor. If a person is working very hard, there is no question of spiritual advancement for him. And if a person is very lazy, again there is no question of spiritual life. So regulated endeavor should also be there. Yukta swapnava bodhasya. Sleep is too much, sleep is too less. Both are impediments. So regulation in eating, regulation in sleeping, regulation in work, all this is very, very integral part of following the process of yoga. And then yogo bhavati dukkhaha. And then if we practice yoga, then dukkhaha, a person can mitigate all the material miseries. So that is why having a disciplined life is very important. Actually, discipline is the primary element. When in the Gurukul, spiritual master sees that the student is disciplined enough, he is given initiation. Means he is now formally admitted to be imparted this Vedic knowledge. So unless a person is sattvic, very disciplined in activities, in thinking, in talking, in walking, in all acts of life, there is no question of realizing the spiritual subject matter. So when we are very, very regulated in our life, then such a person can give rapt attention. So I request all of you, so we should try to inculcate this regulation in our activities every day, and then we have to implement Krishna consciousness. And suppose regulation is too tough for us, does not matter, just pick up Krishna consciousness, and when Krishna comes to our life, automatically regulation also will happen. But then we have to put a positive effort to make it happen soon. So thus Prabhupada took the questions, and after the questions, then he started another kirtan. So this was Prabhupada program. Kirtan, class, again kirtan. And the Lower East Side once again abates. All so many noises, dog barking, kids shouting, squealing, and the traffic noise in the kirtan, it all almost vanishes. The chanting begins, the brass cymbals, Bhaktivedanta Swami's voice carrying the melody, and audience responding. It goes on for half an hour and then stops. The audience sits before the Swami while a boy brings him an apple. Now this is also very integral part of Krishna consciousness. It is not simply dry philosophy, but what we enjoy always, prasadam. Prabhupada had no big arrangement for giving lavish feast every evening. So this is how prasadam distribution started. The audience sits before the Swami while a boy brings him an apple, a small wooden bowl and a knife. As most of the audience still sits and watches, gauging the after effects of the chanting as though it had been some new drug. So if we chant nicely, it can give us experience of actually being drugged. It can take us to a different level of consciousness. That is why all those people, they were not knowing Krishna, they were not knowing anything. They wanted to feel something practically, and they had this practical experience. When they chanted Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then it took them to a different platform of ecstasy. Gauging the after effects of chanting as though it had been some new drug, the Swami cuts the apple in half, then in fourths, then in eighths, until are many pieces. He takes one himself and asks one of the boys to pass the bowl around. The Swami holds back his head and deftly pops a slice of apple into his mouth without touching his fingers to his lips. He chews a bit, ruminating, his lips closed. The members of the congregation munch silently on little pieces of apple. They watch as the Swami stands, slips into his shoes, and exits through the side door. We shall call our society ISKCON. Bhaktivedanta Swami had laughed playfully when he had first coined the acronym. He had initiated the legal work of incorporation that spring, while still living on the Bowery. But even before its legal beginning, he had been talking about his International Society for Krishna Consciousness. When Prabhupada was in Bowery, even at that time, Prabhupada was very clear this society will go international. Although he has no followers, and his most sincere follower was David, who was high on drugs and he behaved so madly that Bhaktivedanta Swami has to leave his apartment. So practically no sincere follower, but he started the legal work of registering ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So Prabhupada later expresses to one of his disciples, when they were suggesting, what is the need of a big temple in Vrindavan? Let us renovate this Radha Damodar temple only, where Prabhupada had stayed and he returned from America to stay in the same rooms. So Prabhupada told, I have a disease. I have never thought small in my life. So Prabhupada registered ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. A friend had suggested a title that would sound more familiar to the Westerners, International Society for God Consciousness. But God was a vague term, whereas Krishna was exact and scientific. God consciousness was spiritually weaker, less personal. And if Westerners didn't know that Krishna was God, then the International Society for Krishna Consciousness would tell them by spreading his glories in every town and village. Krishna consciousness was Bhaktivedanta Swami's own rendering of a phrase. Now, from where this term has come, Krishna Consciousness Society. So this was Bhaktivedanta Swami's own rendering of a phrase from Srila Rupa Goswami's Padyavali, written in the 16th century. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita. It means to be absorbed in the mellow taste of executing devotional service to Krishna. So every word is very important. Please hear again. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita. It means to be absorbed in the mellow taste of executing devotional service to Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada is revealing here what Rupa Goswami wrote in the 16th century, that we wish to absorb ourselves in certain kind of pleasure. Children or some young adults also, sometimes they get absorbed so much in playing computer games, then they are unaware of the physical necessities for many hours and sometimes days. So a person is absorbed on a different platform. Young men and women are absorbed in love of each other. Sometimes they run away, leave their rich family behind, living all the comforts. But the highest absorption is to be absorbed in the mellow taste, a unique kind of taste. And what is this highest taste? Not playing any computer game, not the evanescent infatuation of a lover which vanishes in no time, but the highest mellow taste in which a human being should absorb oneself to experience unending pleasure, not something which ends eventually, is taste of executing devotional service to Krishna. This is a secret. Anyway, service is natural, like Prabhupada explained, that crazy man who is drunk, he came and he also wanted to offer some service. But even though he was not very much aware, but when this kind of service is done in consciousness, in knowledge of Krishna, then it takes a person to very high kind of pleasure, very high kind of ecstasy, and that is called Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita. And when a person is absorbed in this ecstasy, then is completely cut off from all the problems and miseries of this life. And once this body is left, then there is no more birth. The conditioned soul becomes liberated, attains a spiritual body. Oh, is it? So how we can have this? So Shastras are telling not so easy. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati, it is mentioned, Kriyatam Yadi Kutobi Labhyate. So Srila Rupa Goswami is mentioning, wherever you find this Krishna consciousness, please purchase it. Kriyatam Yadi, if somebody is selling this thing, this commodity, please purchase it immediately. This is the most valuable thing. So there is this very nice pastime also, which is a history. There was one Brahmana, and this Brahmana was very ardent devotee of Lord Shiva. And by his sincere worship, Lord Shiva appeared. And he was smart. So he asked him, Lord Shiva, thank you very much. He offered his obeisances. And Lord Shiva asked, yes, what boon do you want? So thank you so much for giving your kind darshan. So please give me not any material resources, any weapon, any other art, sciences, give me the greatest opulence. So Lord Shiva became very happy when he asked this, and he told, you please go to Vrindavan immediately, and there you meet a saint, Sanatan Goswami. Who is Sanatan Goswami? Brother of Rup Goswami, the devotee who composed this Padyavali and coined this phrase, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita. So he told, you go and meet Sanatan Goswami, he will give you this greatest opulence. And Lord Shiva vanished. Brahmana became very happy. I am going to have the greatest opulence. Greatest means superlative. Nobody, not even Ravana, who was offering his severed heads to Lord Shiva, he would have attained this thing. It is greatest opulence which I am going to get. And with great hope and expectation, he immediately started towards Vrindavan. And he reached Vrindavan. And Sanatan Goswami, Rup Goswami were very famous in Vrindavan. Everybody was loving them. They were loving all. Dhira dhira jana priyau priya karau. So he met Sanatan Goswami, offered his respects. He told, yes, how can I help you? So he explained that Lord Shiva has told me to come to you to have the greatest opulence. Can you please give me that? Sanatan Goswami told, you see, I am living in this cottage and I am a poor man. I do not have any clothes on my body even. How can I give you anything, any opulence? I myself am not opulent. So he told, but Maharaj, Lord Shiva cannot lie. Something, you must be having that greatest opulence. Even though it may not be visible, can you please give me that? So he told, okay, you want that opulence? You go behind this cottage, and there in the garbage behind the cottage, behind that hut, you will find this small stone. Please bring it here. So he followed the instruction. Among the dried leaves and garbage, he got this stone, and then he brings it to Sanatan. He told, you touch it to iron. And he realized, oh, it was no ordinary stone. It was touchstone. As soon as you touch it to iron, it becomes gold. So he became very happy. Touchstone, we had just heard of it in scriptures and otherwise in folklores. But now I have this touchstone with me. Now I can have unlimited gold. Ravana also had to do so much of mining here and there to make his city Lanka gold plated. But then now I have this touchstone. I can have unlimited gold. This is definitely greatest opulence. And he thanked Sanatan Goswami so much, and very happily he started coming back. But then he was intelligent. He thought, wait a minute, I think this is not fair. He has not given me the greatest opulence, because there is something which he is having which makes him throw this very valuable touchstone as an insignificant thing in the dry leaves behind his hut. So I should go back and ask him that thing in front of which this touchstone has no value for him. So he went back. He told Maharaj, I'm sorry, but you have not given me greatest opulence. So Sanatan Goswami told, so you wanted the greatest? Yes, yes, I definitely want that. So he told, so first, you please go and throw this touchstone into the Yamuna. And then you come back. And he became very happy. Now I'm going to have something even more valuable. Maybe instead of gold, it will become diamond. Another precious stone he would give me. He throws it, he comes back. Yes, Maharaj, you have thrown it? Yes, I have thrown. Then Sanatan Goswami tells, now sit down and chant Hare Krishna. So Sanatan Goswami had this opulence. So we have to realize what is that the devotees are having, because of which, and Sanatan Goswami, Rup Goswami, they were ministers, and opulence in India was so much. It was called Sone ki Chidiya. And they got tired looting and ransacking temples, but they were not able to carry gold out. So much gold was there. So when Sanatan Goswami, Rup Goswami, they retired from ministership of Bengal, they carried many boats completely full of gold coins. Can you imagine? Many boats full of gold coins. They were so rich. So what is that thing which is making them leave all this opulence? Something should be much, much more valuable. That is Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Because of which everything, all other pleasures fade away. So that is why Rup Goswami is telling, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita, it is so much opulent, it is such a valuable thing that the kings leave their kingdoms and all these other ministers, they leave their jobs. and they completely dedicate themselves to Krishna consciousness. This thing is so valuable. So if somebody is selling you Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita, Krishna consciousness, Mati, this consciousness, Kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate, please purchase it, Kriyatam, immediately. But then what is the currency for it? I know how to purchase spices, how to purchase gold, silver, ornaments, how to purchase this consciousness. So whatever we experience in life, good consciousness, bad consciousness, happy moods or distressed moods. We have sometimes praise from others. We sometimes are criticized by others. We sometimes are given some good body, having good health. Sometimes a person is born crippled. So all these things, physical or mental happiness and distress, follows one's karma. If a person has good karma, he'll be happy in life. So should I do good karma? This is how we can afford Krishna consciousness. So it is being told, no. Janma koti sukritaya na labhyate. Koti means crores. You take crores of births and keep on doing these good activities, but this consciousness you will not get. Then what is the price? So it is told there is one price. And what is that? That is called eagerness. Tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam. Lolya means intense greed to have it, intense eagerness. So Prabhupada would tell his disciples, somehow or other you now have knowledge of God. Now you should become very, very eager to see God, and then God would be seen. So somehow or the other, if a person becomes very, very eager, I want to have this consciousness. What is making these people live under a different tree every night with simply a loincloth on their body? And such hardships they are taking, but they are not at all disturbed. What is this thing that they have? I want to have this thing. I am eager. And then it will be attained. But then how to have this eagerness? Even though people are seeing these examples day in and day out in the lives of devotees, as we read from the scriptures, Dhruv Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, or in the life of saints who we have seen around us. Lord Chaitanya, the 6 Goswamis, so many followers. Bhaktisdan Maharaj, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, Sant Tukaram, Mirabai, we have seen their lives. How despite so many difficulties, they were not disturbed and enjoyed an extraordinary ecstasy in their life. But somehow this greed or even interest does not awaken. So how to attain this? So it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam by self-realized souls who are established on that platform of Krishna consciousness. Like Bharat Maharaj, after whom this entire planet is, it was re-christianed as Bharat Varsha, or Prahlad Maharaj, or other devotees. They have given the understanding how a person can get this greed, which is the currency for purchasing Krishna consciousness. How this eagerness can be attained. How do we actually purchase Krishna consciousness? So Prahlad Maharaj tells, Naisha matis tavad urukramangrim Prishatyanarthapagamo yadarthaha. So unless all the anarthas of the body are vanished, a person cannot develop this eagerness. Just like a person who is sick because of contamination of virus within the body, he will not have eagerness to eat. So this eagerness to have Krishna consciousness will not come unless there is contamination of lust and greed in the body, Rajoguna and Tamoguna in the body. So it has to be taken out. So just like through medicines, these contaminations are flushed out of the body and then a person becomes eager to eat. In a similar fashion, anarthapagamo yadarthaha. Anarthas means unwanted lusty desires and greed. So many addictions, bad habits that we have. All those anarthas have to be taken away. And it is very difficult to come out of these anarthas. Even great sages fail to control such things. So Prahlad Maharaj is giving the clue. How all the anarthas can be removed from the body and this mati can be obtained. He tells, Mahiya sampad rajobhishekam nishkinchananam na vranitayavat. By smearing oneself with the dust of the lotus feet of devotee. And similar thing is quoted by Bharat Maharaj also and other devotees. So for lack of time, we are just seeing 2 instances. So Bharat Maharaj tells Maharaj Rahugan, when Maharaj Rahugan realized this person who I forced to carry my palanquin, he is most exalted spiritualist. He is a Paramahansa. Immediately came, because kings have knowledge. So immediately came down and he fell flat on his feet And he told, please excuse me, I did not realize you. Can you please explain me how you attained this consciousness which is rare in the universe? So Bharat Maharaj also explained the same thing. Rahu ganay tat tapasa nayati. Not by tapasya you can have this. Na chejjaya nirvapanat grahatva. You cannot attain this by leaving your house or by reading the Vedas or by any kind of worship. No. How you can do this? Only by Mahiyasam Pada Rajobhishekam. Smearing yourself with the dust of the lotus feet of devotee. Vina Mahatapada Rajobhishekam. So one has to smear himself with the dust of lotus feet of devotee. So what does it mean? Yes. Because pure devotee is completely spiritualized, anything which comes in contact with pure devotee also becomes spiritualized, just like iron rod in fire. So the dust of pure devotee's lotus feet is also very purifying. But it also means very, very strictly following the instructions of the spiritual master, because pure devotee is on absolute platform like Lord Krishna. So there is no difference between Lord Krishna and his words, his instructions. Similarly, there is no difference between spiritual master who is a pure devotee and their instructions. So when a person is completely absorbed in following the instructions of a pure devotee, that means smearing oneself with the dust of the lotus feet of devotee. So that is why both things should be done. That is why people would wash the feet of pure devotees. In this way they receive them in their house and then sprinkle them upon all the family members. So that water which has touched the lotus feet of devotee, the dust contained in that water, it is very purifying, spiritualizing, and very, very rigorously, more importantly, absorbing oneself in following the instructions. This is the real way of associating with spiritual master and seeing God. When somebody is very, very determined to follow very strictly the rules and regulations given by spiritual master, then such a person is having positive perception of God and he is perceiving God in his Krishna conscious activities. So this is a great secret how we can have this Krishna consciousness, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita. So that is why Srila Prabhupada named his society Krishna Consciousness. The purposes stated within ISKCON's articles of incorporation reveal Bhaktivedanta Swami's thinking. There were 7 points similar to those given in the prospectus for League of Devotees he formed in Jhansi, India in 1954. That attempt had been unsuccessful, yet his purposes remained unchanged. So what objectives were there of League of Devotees which he established in Jhansi? Same purposes he established for Krishna Conscious Society also. And he mentioned in the society charter. First point, first purpose, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. Second, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Third, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, thus to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna. Fourth, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy name of God as revealed in the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To erect for the members and for the society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Krishna. Sixth, to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural way of life, that is called Varnashrama society. Last, with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books and other writings. Regardless of what ISKCON's charter members thought of the society's purposes, Bhaktivedanta Swami saw them as imminent realities. As Mr. Rubin, the subway conductor who had met Bhaktivedanta Swami on a Manhattan park bench in 1965 had noted. So this Mr. Rubin, he was sitting next to Srila Prabhupada on a bench in 1965. When Prabhupada had no followers, he had just come to America. And Prabhupada introduced himself when they were sitting next to each other. So I am the spiritual master of International Society, which is having hundreds of temples across the world and thousands of devotees. And he was surprised. Oh, I am sitting next to such a great man. So he asked, where are those things? So Srila Prabhupada told, all these things are existing. The centers are there, temples are there, devotees are there, and books are there. Only time is separating us. So although Srila Prabhupada expressing himself as insignificant beggar in the Markandeya Dharma in his prayers, but sometimes Prabhupada revealed how he was able to foresee past, present, and future. So thus it is very difficult to understand the consciousness of a pure devotee. Sometimes they present themselves as an ordinary person, completely ignorant of the things. And sometimes it appears that they know everything. And Prabhupada told, all these things are existing, only time is separating us. So for Prabhupada, these things were not simply to get some approval to start the society, but Prabhupada saw them as imminent realities. Because of Swami's presence and the words that he spoke there and the kirtans, everyone was already referring to the storefront as the temple. But still it was just a bare squalid storefront. The inspiration to decorate the place came from the Mott Street boys. Howard, Keith and Wally devised a scheme to surprise the Swami when he came to the evening kirtan. Wally removed the curtains from their apartment, took them to the laundromat, and then dyed them purple. The Mott Street apartment was decorated with posters, paintings, and large decorative silk hangings that Howard and Keith had brought back from India. So as we discussed, they had gone to India for finding a spiritual master. They purchased these things. They brought it to Matchless Gift Shop. The boys gathered up all their pictures, tapestries, incense burners, and other paraphernalia and took them, along with the purple curtains, to the storefront, where they began their day of decorating. At the storefront, the boys constructed a wooden platform for the Swami to sit on and covered it with old velvet cloths. Behind the platform, on the rear wall, between the two windows to the courtyard, they hung the purple curtains, flanked by a pair of orange ones. Against one orange panel, just above the Swami's sitting place, they hung a large original painting of Radha and Krishna on a circular canvas that a boy named James Green had done. The figures of Radha and Krishna were somewhat abstract, but the Lower East Side critics who frequented the storefront hailed the work as a wonderful achievement. Keith and Howard were less confident that the Swami would approve of their paintings and prints from India, because Prabhupada was very specific about paintings, about every standard of spiritual affairs. Now people paint anything and everything without understanding the intricacies of spiritual life. So they were afraid that he may not approve. So some other things which they were doubtful of, they hung it on the other side, away from where Swami is supposed to sit. Away from the Swami's seat. One of these prints, well known in India, was of Hanuman carrying a mountain through the sky to Lord Ramchandra. The boys had no idea what kind of being Hanuman was. They thought perhaps he was a cat because of the shape of his upper lip. Then there was the picture of a male person with 6 arms. 2 arms painted greenish held a bow and arrow. Another pair bluish held a flute. And the third pair, golden, held a stick and bowl. So what is this 6-armed form? I think some of you must be knowing what is this. You can maybe mention in the chat if you know this form. What is this 6-armed form? By late afternoon, they had covered the sitting platform, hung curtains, tacked up the decorative silks and prints, and hung the paintings, and were decorating the dais with flowers and candlesticks. Someone brought a pillow for the Swami to sit on and a faded cushion from an overstuffed chair for the backrest. Even Raphael and Don, 2 hippies who seemed to be only interested in the free food and a place to sleep, took part in the decorating. The secret was well kept, and the boys waited to see the Swami's response. So entire afternoon they decorated the place very nicely, and they wanted to please Prabhupada when he would come for the regular evening program. That night, when he walked in to begin the kirtan, he looked at the newly decorated temple. There was even incense burning, and he raised his eyebrows in satisfaction. "You are advancing," he said as he looked around the room, smiling broadly. "Yes," he added, "this is Krishna consciousness." His sudden happy mood seemed almost like their reward for their earnest labors. He then stepped up onto the platform while the boys held their breaths, hoping it would be sturdy. And he sat looking out at the devotees and the decorations. They had pleased him, but now he assumed a feature of extreme gravity. And though they knew he was certainly the same Swamiji, their titterings stuck in their throats, and their happy glances to each other suddenly abated in uncertainty and nervousness. As they regarded Swamiji's gravity, their joy of a few moments before suddenly seemed childish. As a cloud quickly covers the sun like a dark shade, the Swami changed his mood from jolly to grave. So it is very difficult. It is told, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigyehena Bujhaya. Sometimes when Prabhupada was laughing and devotees asked Prabhupada, why are you laughing? Prabhupada told, you never know why do I laugh. At other times in Vrindavan, once Prabhupada was very, very silent and was not talking to anybody. Very grave. Like here, suddenly he is smiling broadly and he becomes grave. And the devotees were thinking Prabhupada is not feeling well, he's sick. So then after a few days, Prabhupada called one of his disciples and he told, they are thinking that I'm sick, I'm not keeping well, but actually I'm enjoying transcendental consciousness. So thus Prabhupada also, they became afraid, why Swami has become so grave, what mistake we have done? And they spontaneously resolved to become equally grave and sober. He picked up the kartals and again smiled a ray of appreciation, and their hearts beamed back. Glancing at the pictures on the wall, he said, tomorrow I will come, look at the pictures and tell you which are good. The next day, Bhaktivedanta Swami came down to appraise the new artwork on display, the pictures which were hung on the other side, far away from Swami. One framed watercolor painting was of a man playing drum while a girl danced. This one is all right, he said. But another painting of a woman was more mundane, and he said, no, this painting is not so good. He walked to the back of the temple, followed anxiously by Howard, Keith and Wally. When he came upon the painting of the six-armed person, he said, oh, this is very nice. Who is it? Wally asked. This is Lord Chaitanya. Swamiji replied. Why does he have 6 arms? They asked. Prabhupada says, because he showed himself to be both Rama and Krishna. These are the arms of Rama and these are the arms of Krishna. What are the other 2 arms? Keith asked. Those are the arms of a sannyasi, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas and then he showed 4 other arms, total 6 arms, 2 arms of sannyasi, 2 arms of greenish color of Lord Ramchandra holding bow and arrow, and then of Lord Krishna holding a flute in his hand. He went to the next picture. This is also very nice. Who is it? Howard asked. This is Hanuman. Swami replied. Is he a cat? No, Swamiji replied. He is a monkey. So these people were so simple that they were not even knowing who is Hanuman. And similar was the state of affairs when Srila Prabhupada was giving lectures in his upstate apartment just below the yoga studio of Dr. Mishra, where some old women were coming. Once Prabhupada, in that uptown apartment, Prabhupada asked him, so you know Krishna lifting the Govardhan hill, you know Krishna? And they were dumbfounded, they were not knowing who is Krishna. So Prabhupada was preaching in a place, we all know various pastimes and we keep on hearing, but those people were not knowing who is Krishna, who is Hanuman. And they are asking, is he a cat? So one very famous celebrity atheist of our country was telling, actually people are believers of God because they have been brainwashed. At a young age, you give them religious books and such orientation, so they start believing in God. We never gave our children such association of theistic people, so now they don't follow any religion. So he's telling religion does not make any sense. It is a nonsense thing. It is a blind faith. When the child is very young, you expose them to these things, so they start believing on these facts which otherwise do not make any rational sense. But here we see this is a counter argument, a tight slap on face of such atheists who tell religion does not make sense, it is a blind faith. And if you preach this to a grown-up man, they would never accept it. Prabhupada proved it wrong. Prabhupada went to a place where people had no exposure. They don't know Hanuman, they don't know Ram, they don't know Krishna, they don't know anything. And they are grown-up people, intelligent people who are defying all the norms of society. Not easy to convince them. But they agreed, and not just agreed to listen about Krishna, but they dedicated themselves, all their lives, comforts, countries, just in the service of Krishna. So this is Krishna consciousness. It is the highest logic. It is the most rational thing. So spirituality, as it has been known to us, religion as it has been preached, it appears to be blind faith or fanaticism. But actually, if we understand the perfection of religion or Krishna consciousness, it is very, very scientific and very, very logical. Thus, all these young people surrendered themselves to understanding of a person they had never seen. But there was a difference between these two people. The old women who were listening in the apartment, although both were equally ignorant, and these young boys. But these boys offered great hope to Swamiji. Why? Because the boys were serving Swamiji and chanting Hare Krishna. They were through with material life and the middle class work reward syndrome. Their hearts had awakened to Swamiji's promise of expanded Krishna consciousness, and they sensed in his personal company something exalted. So these people, what was the difference? The difference was the boys were serving Swamiji and chanting Hare Krishna, and thus they felt something exalted in the Swami's company. Why people fall for drugs? Because they feel something is happening. I'm feeling a different state of consciousness, and they get addicted to it. There is no need of convincing them and doing these things. So when a person has practical experience of Krishna consciousness, then that's all that we want in our life. But how to have this practical experience of Krishna consciousness? Thus this new group in the matchless gift offered great hope. Why? Because they were doing two things which old ladies were not doing. They are simply coming, hearing and going away. But these people, they were serving so nicely. They decorated the temple, and Swami told, now you are advanced, you are making advancement. And they were also chanting Hare Krishna. So I request, if you have been just hearing our classes, but you have not picked up chanting seriously with a vow, these many rounds I should chant every day, I should chant as much as possible throughout the day. Please try to do these things. Chant as much as possible throughout the day, and few rounds with determination on beads. I will not leave, come what may. I will compromise on other things, but I will do these rounds, these many rounds. I will chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra these many times every day. So chanting the names of Krishna, Sevan Mukhehi Jivvado, using your tongue, vibrating your tongue and hearing the sound, and engaging our senses, whatever skills, resources we have in practical service of Krishna and spiritual master. This is the way of experiencing something exalted. So a devotee who has just joined the temple, he is undergoing the training. He called me. So I asked how the things are going there. So he told, Prabhu, when I came here, it was, I asked myself, what am I doing? Am I on the right thing or not? I asked, what happened? So he got MMD service. What is MMD? We call Mandir Marjanam devotee. Marjanam means cleaning. So this is exclusive cleaning job. Morning and evening, you have to just do cleaning. You have to clean toilets, you have to clean temple, you have to clean everything, whatever you see. Many hours of cleaning every day for the entire week. So you told entire life, Prabhu, I have not done this cleaning which I did in 1 week. So it was so tough. I was thinking, what is this thing? But then something saved me, and that was constant chanting. I was constantly chanting Krishna's name, so I was able to do it nicely. But then one thing I'm experiencing, Prabhu. I told, what is that? Well, earlier when I was reading, only 10% of the things would strike me. I was able to absorb. I read one page, maybe one sentence, I would be able to appreciate. Oh, this thing is very nice. But now 80% of the things are striking. Every other line I read of Prabhupada, I think, oh, this is also so nice. This is such a nice fact. And I'm able to realize this thing. How reading is so sweet. And it is such wonderful logic and experience that it is giving me. So thus we can understand it practically, that by exerting, Srila Prabhupada mentions, even though you may not like the service, our mind and body may rebel because so much physical work we have not done. But if we do hard work for Krishna, even though we may not like it, we will experience something exalted. So the sacrifice, working very hard for Krishna, is important for realization of Krishna, experiencing this exalted state of consciousness, which removed all the doubts from these hippies, and they just wanted to follow the Swami because they got this experience. They were chanting and they were serving Srila Prabhupada. Then began the summer of 1966. In August, it was very, very hot. And although other people experienced some disturbance in those months, August, September, but Prabhupada was comfortable because he had faced much more intense heat in Vrindavan, in India. So he was comfortable. He was wearing a sannyas cloth, and very nicely he would do all his activities. So these were very happy days for Swami. He got very nice followers, and they were helping him in all the things. They were doing cooking for him, typing for him, printing and cleaning and all other things, getting more people. Earlier he thought maybe I have to survive in America on boiled potatoes, but then by Krishna's mercy he was having the same food which he had in Vrindavan. Rice, dal, sabji, chapatis got arranged even at that place in America. So he was able to offer prasadam to Krishna, honor it by Krishna's grace, and the weather was also comfortable. He told, yes, this is just like India. And he was very happy seeing new people, these fledgling devotees in Krishna consciousness. According to Rupa Goswami, the most important principle was that one should somehow or other become Krishna conscious. People should chant Hare Krishna and render devotional service. Again, 2-point service. So these 2 points are very important. So all other disqualifications, they don't exist practically if a person implements these 2 things. Chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and render practical devotional service using your mind, intelligence and physical activity, senses. People should chant Hare Krishna and render devotional service. They should engage whatever they had in the service of Krishna. Just Prabhupada was very jubilant to see these things, and he was not minding of their bad habits which they developed in American culture. But he was hopeful, they are doing this thing, all these anarthas would go away. Although he was engaging the boys in cooking and typing, Prabhupada was not doing any less himself. Rather, for every sincere soul who came forward to ask for service, 100 came who wanted not to serve but to challenge. Speaking to them, sometimes shouting and pounding his fists, Prabhupada defended Krishna against the Mayavad philosophy. So once a disciple who was not exactly a disciple, a person who also was showing interest, and he was visiting Prabhupada. And he started kind of arguing with Prabhupada that God is impersonal. And Prabhupada became very angry, his face became red. And he started banging on the table, Krishna is person, Krishna is person. And great anger he displayed. So one may wonder, oh Swami, spiritualists, they are not supposed to become angry. This is a great misconception actually. So there are 2 kinds of spiritualists, personalists and impersonalists. As we have been discussing in the Bhagavad Gita series, which we conduct on Zoom every Wednesday and Saturday. So Lord Krishna explains, these people who are not very advanced, they only understand the energy which is emanating from God. And they are appreciating that energy which is spread everywhere, and they think ultimate truth is simply an energy. So they tell God is not a person, God is an energy. So, but a devotee becomes very angry because Krishna is so eager to call the living entities back to him. Suppose father has arranged somebody, some of his friend or family member, please bring back my son, try to convince him some way that he comes back. And some other person tells him, this boy, that no, your father is not a man, he is dead, he is not existing in form, he is simply some energy now. So how angry would father become? And how angry would that person become who is very close to father, who has gone to bring back the son? Thus pure devotees, they become very angry because it pains Krishna. Because who takes interest in some energy? I want to mix in some energy unless he is extremely frustrated with this material life. But personal spiritual life is a great hope. You can live, practically speak to God. You can live with him, enjoy with him and do all the activities. So Prabhupada and all the pure devotees, They must become angry. It is mentioned in Bhagavatam, the most holy scripture of Vedvyas. It is mentioned that if a person does not become angry when God is being blasphemed or his devotee, then he comes down in a spiritual level. Thus, Lord Ramchandra also showed anger. Lord Krishna also showed anger. Arjuna also showed anger. So, pure devotees do show anger because they are having a relationship with God. When your relative, somebody abuses him or her, you become angry. So, that is why Bhakti Yoga means the highest yoga. You perfectly know God is a person, and if anybody abuses God or his position or his devotee who are very dear to Krishna, one must become angry. So, Prabhupada was defending with great anger this impersonal. Whenever he would meet any impersonalist, he would become upset. Although sometimes he may not display, but sometimes it would come out, these feelings. In the back room of his apartment, Prabhupada was usually alone, especially in the early morning hours, 2, 3, 4 a.m. When almost no one else was awake. Prabhupada would get up 2 o'clock in the morning, even in America. In these early hours, his room was silent, and he worked alone in the intimacy of his relationship with Krishna. He would sit on the floor behind his suitcase desk, worshipping Krishna by typing the translations and purports of his Srimad Bhagavatam. But this same back room was also used for meetings, and anyone who brought himself to knock on the Swami's door could enter and speak with him at any time. Face to face, Prabhupada would sit back from his typewriter and give his time to talking, listening, answering questions, sometimes arguing or joking. A visitor might sit alone with him for half an hour before someone else would knock, and Swamiji would invite the newcomer to join them. New guests would come and others would go, but Swamiji stayed and sat and talked. Generally, visits were formal. His guests would ask philosophical questions and he would answer, much the same as after a lecture in the storefront. But occasionally, some of the boys who were becoming sincere, especially on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday nights when the regular classes were not happening, they monopolized the time. Often they would ask him personal questions. What was it like when he first came to New York? What about India? Did he have followers there? Were his family members devotee of Krishna? What was his spiritual master like? And then he would talk in a different way, quieter, more intimate and humorous. One night he told how he had met his spiritual master. He also told about his childhood in India, how he had begun his own chemical business, and how he had left home in 1959 and had taken sannyas. The boys were interested, but so ignorant of the things the Swami was talking about that at the mention of the word like mridanga or sannyas, they would have to ask what it meant. They were not knowing what is mridanga, what is sannyas. And he would go on conversational tangents describing Indian spices, Indian drums, and whatever he spoke about, he would eventually shine upon it the light of the Shastra. He did not ration out such talk but gave it out abundantly by the hour, day after day, as long as there was a real live inquirer. At noon, the front room of Swamiji's apartment became a dining hall, and in the evenings, a place of intimate worship. Swamiji had kept the room with its 12-foot square hardwood, parquet floor, clean and bare. The solitary coffee table against the wall between the two courtyard windows was the only furniture. Daily at noon, a dozen men were now taking lunch there with him. So after an year of preaching, Srila Prabhupada was able to bring these dozen men with him, who would drop by every afternoon and have lunch with the Swami. The meal was cooked by Keith, who spent the whole morning in the kitchen. At first, Keith had cooked only for Swami in 3-tier lunch box, and then for a couple of people more, but then the number increased. So Swami told him to cook abundantly for all the dozen people who were coming. The boarders, Raphael and Don, though not so interested in Swamiji's talk, would arrive punctually each day for prasadam, usually with a friend or two who had wandered into the storefront. Steve would drop by from his job at the welfare office. The Mod Street group would come, and there were others. The kitchen was stocked with standard Indian spices. So all these things were very new for them. Indian spices, fresh chilies, fresh ginger root, whole cumin seeds, turmeric, and asafoetida. Keith mastered the basic cooking techniques and passed them on to his friend Chuck, who became his assistant. Some of the other boys who would stand at the doorway of the narrow kitchenette to watch Keith as one thick pancake like chapati after another inflated like a football over the open flame and then took its place in the steaming stack. It was something very new, something swelling up like football. While the fine basmati rice boiled to a moist, fluffy white finish and the sabji simmered, the noon cooking would climax with the chaunce. What is chaunce? Chaunce is the ISKCON terminology for chauka or tadka seasoning, what we call it. So in ISKCON somehow Prabhupada would have spoken chauk and it was written as CHAUNC, and then they started calling it chaunce, and now it is very famous word and a regular kind of English word in ISKCON cooking books. Keith prepared the chaunce exactly as Swamiji had shown him. Over the flame, he set a metal cup half filled with clarified butter and then put in cumin seeds. When the seeds turned almost black, he added chilies. And as the chilies blackened, a choking smoke began to pour from the cup. Now the chaunce was ready. With his cook's tongs, Keith lifted the cup, its boiling, crackling mixture fuming like a sorcerer's kettle, and brought it to the edge of the pot of boiling dal. He opened the tight cover slightly, dumped the boiling chaunce into the dal with a flick of his wrist, and immediately replaced the lid. Pow! The meeting of the chaunce and dal created an explosion, which was then greeted by the cheers from the doorway, signifying that the cooking was now complete. This is what they understood. When you hear this explosion of chaunce, then your cooking is done. They would wait with intense hunger for the tasty food that was going to come out. But then, still, the wait was not over. Another important element was added, which we also, if we are not doing, should add. What is that? The meeting of the chaunce and dal created an explosion, which was then greeted by cheers from the doorway, signifying that the cooking was now complete. This final operation was so volatile that it once blew the top of the pot to the ceiling with a loud smash, causing minor burns to the Keith's hand. Some of the neighbors complained of acrid penetrating fumes, but the devotees loved it. When lunch was ready, Swamiji would wash his hands and mouth in the bathroom and come out in the front room, his soft pink-bottom feet always bare, his saffron dhoti reaching down to his ankles. He would stand by the coffee table which held the picture of Lord Chaitanya and his associates, while his own associates stood around him against the walls. Keith would bring in a big tray of chapatis stacked by the dozens and place it on the floor before the altar table along with the pots of rice, dal and sabji. Swamiji would then recite the Bengali prayer for offering food to the Lord, and all present would follow him by bowing down, knees and head to the floor, and approximating the Bengali prayer one word at a time. While the steam and mixed aromas drifted up like an offering of incense before the picture of Lord Chaitanya, the Swami's followers bowed their heads to the wooden floor and mumbled the prayer. So this is how Srila Prabhupada planted the seeds of Krishna consciousness. From the very basic things as introducing Indian spices in the cooking, putting chaunce or seasoning, introducing the offering procedure, and all these introducing the simple aspects, who is Hanuman, who is Krishna, who is Lord Chaitanya, what are the incarnations, what was Prabhupada's past life. In this way, Srila Prabhupada was taking them in folds of Krishna consciousness. As a gardener, very nice takes care of a new plant. So just like a plant needs expert care of a gardener, similarly, spiritual life does not develop by chance. With great care, caution, protection, spiritual master has to nurture the sapling of that spiritual life of his disciples. And before that, very important thing has to happen. The seed has to be planted. And how that planting of seed actually, what is that seed, how Prabhupada planted, how it was formalized, and how actually eventually the Hare Krishnas, they went out in the open and everybody got acquainted with it. how really the Hare Krishna movement got inaugurated in America. All these interesting things we will hear in the session tomorrow. So thank you so much for hearing. Now is the time for announcing winner's name. Yesterday's winner of quiz is Dr. Mantosh Kumar. Many congratulations, Mantosh, if you are hearing. He has written 10 points. So this is very wonderful. Says he will stay pure, serve sincerely, and surrender to the holy name. Yes, it is very nice. We surrender to Krishna, and holy name is also Krishna's incarnation. So I should try to surrender to holy name and specifically pray to holy name, that holy name of Krishna, please show me your mercy, because holy name is not different from Krishna. So I request all of you now also, please write your realizations. It will help you a lot. What you could understand, any simple point or anything you can recollect, you can please mention in the comments. I repeat, not in the chat box. Once we close this session, in the comments you can mention what realizations you have, what things you have learned, and then you can also mention how you are going to apply these things in your life. So please try to do this, and first 50 people who comment, we will be selecting one lucky winner again. And please keep your YouTube notifications on, because then you have to respond to our mail sending your postal address, and we will be mailing some very transcendental gift. It could be prasadam or a very nice book of Krishna consciousness or something else. That is a surprise for you. So please do respond, do comment, and please like this video and share it so that we can reach Srila Prabhupada to as many people as possible. So please try to help us in this endeavor. Thank you so much. We'll meet again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.